This is Mental Forge, where weakness burns and warriors are built. Picture this. Every morning at exactly 4:30 a.m., while the world sleeps in comfortable mediocrity, a small group of individuals rise with unwavering purpose. They don't hit the snooze button. They don't negotiate with their inner voice. They simply get up and begin the rituals that separate them from the 99% who will spend another day wondering why success feels so elusive. These are the people who understand a fundamental truth that Napoleon Hill discovered after studying over 500 of the wealthiest individuals of his time. Success is not an accident. It's a discipline practiced daily in small, seemingly insignificant moments that compound over time into extraordinary results. What if I told you that the difference between you and the person living your dream life isn't talent, luck, or circumstances, but rather a set of daily discipline hacks that anyone can master? What if the gap between where you are and where you want to be could be bridged not by some grand gesture or overnight transformation, but by the consistent application of principles that have been tested by history's greatest achievers? Today, we're going to dive deep into the exact strategies that separate the 1% from everyone else, and more importantly, how you can implement them starting immediately. The transformation you're about to experience isn't just about productivity or success metrics. This is about fundamentally rewiring your relationship with discipline, turning it from a burden into your greatest source of power and freedom. By the end of our time together, you'll possess a complete framework for daily discipline that touches every aspect of your life. Your mindset, your habits, your relationships, your finances, and your spiritual growth. You'll understand how to build unshakable belief systems, eliminate fear through strategic repetition, and create the kind of mental discipline that makes success inevitable rather than accidental. Let me start with a story that perfectly illustrates the power of daily discipline. In 1879, a young Thomas Edison was working on what would become one of humanity's greatest inventions, the incandescent light bulb. But here's what most people don't know about Edison's process. He didn't succeed on his first attempt, or his 10th, or even his 100th. Edison famously tested over 1,000 different filament materials before discovering the carbon filament that would work. When a reporter asked him about his failures, Edison replied with words that reveal the mindset of the disciplined 1%. "I have not failed. I've just found 1,000 ways that won't work." This wasn't just positive thinking or motivational platitudes. This was a man who understood that daily discipline means showing up consistently, especially when results aren't immediately visible. Edison had developed a systematic approach to innovation that combined rigorous daily work habits with an unshakable belief in eventual success. He would arrive at his laboratory every morning at 6 a.m. sharp, work for 16 to 18 hours, and approach each failure as valuable data rather than a reason to quit. This daily discipline didn't just give him the light bulb, it gave him over 1,000 patents and established him as one of history's most prolific inventors. The first discipline hack of the 1% is what I call the Edison principle. Treat every day as an experiment, every failure as data, and every small action as a building block toward your inevitable success. This requires a fundamental shift in how you view daily actions. Most people see daily routines as mundane, repetitive tasks that they endure until they can get to the real work of achieving their goals. The 1% understand that the daily routine is the real work. The compound effect that Darren Hardy writes about isn't just a nice concept. It's the mathematical reality that small, consistent actions create exponential results over time. James Clear, in his groundbreaking work, Atomic Habits, reveals that if you improve by just 1% every day for 1 year, you'll end up 37 times better than when you started. Conversely, if you decline by 1% daily, you'll decline nearly down to zero. This isn't motivational math. This is the actual mathematics of compound growth applied to human development. The 1% understand this principle viscerally, which is why they're obsessed with daily improvements rather than dramatic breakthroughs. But here's where most people get it wrong. They focus on the actions without understanding the identity shift that must occur first. Before Edison became the inventor of the light bulb, he had to become the type of person who experiments daily without attachment to immediate results. Before Henry Ford revolutionized manufacturing, he had to become the type of person who thinks systematically about efficiency and scalability. The discipline hacks we're about to explore aren't just about doing different things. They're about becoming a different type of person. This brings us to the foundational principle that underlies all effective discipline, the principle of identity-based change. Most people try to change their results by changing their actions, but they skip the crucial step of changing their identity. They say, "I want to be wealthy," but they still think like someone who's broke. They say, "I want to be healthy," but they still think like someone who doesn't prioritize their body. The 1% understand that lasting change happens from the inside out, not the outside in. Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher emperor of Rome, understood this principle deeply. In his personal journal, which we now know as Meditations, he wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." Aurelius wasn't just a philosopher. He was a man who had to govern an empire while maintaining his personal principles and daily disciplines. Every morning, he would begin with what he called his morning reflections, a practice of mentally preparing himself for the challenges of the day by reminding himself of his values, his role, and his commitment to virtue. What made Aurelius extraordinary wasn't his position or his circumstances. It was his daily practice of aligning his identity with his highest values. He understood that external discipline is impossible without inner discipline. This is why the first discipline hack of the 1% is what I call identity design, the daily practice of consciously choosing who you're becoming through your thoughts, decisions, and actions. Here's how you implement identity design starting today. Every morning, before you check your phone, before you consume any external information, spend 5 minutes in what I call identity alignment. Ask yourself 3 questions. Who am I becoming today? What would the person I want to be do in this situation? How can I align my actions today with my highest values and deepest aspirations? This isn't just positive thinking. This is strategic identity development. The neuroscience behind this practice is profound. When you consistently ask yourself identity-based questions, you're literally rewiring your brain's neural pathways. Dr. Joe Dispenza's research shows that repeated thoughts become automatic neural patterns, and automatic neural patterns become personality traits. Your personality traits determine your personal reality. This means that the daily discipline of consciously choosing your thoughts is actually the practice of consciously creating your future. But identity work alone isn't enough. The 1% combine inner work with outer systems, and this brings us to our second discipline hack: environmental design. Your environment is constantly shaping your behavior, usually below the level of conscious awareness. The 1% don't rely on willpower alone. They design their environments to make good choices automatic and bad choices difficult. Let me share a story about John D. Rockefeller that perfectly illustrates this principle. Rockefeller, who became the wealthiest person in modern history, didn't achieve his success through grand gestures or lucky breaks. He achieved it through meticulous attention to environmental details that supported his daily disciplines. Rockefeller's office was designed with specific elements that reinforced his identity as a systematic, long-term thinker. He kept a simple wooden desk, free of clutter, with only the essential documents for the day's most important decisions. On his wall hung a single piece of art, a landscape that reminded him to think beyond immediate circumstances and consider long-term consequences. More importantly, Rockefeller structured his daily schedule with what he called non-negotiable appointments with himself. Every morning from 6 to 7 a.m. was dedicated to planning and reflection. Every evening from 5 to 6 p.m. was dedicated to reviewing the day's decisions and preparing for tomorrow. He treated these appointments with the same seriousness that he treated meetings with business partners. This environmental structure supported his ability to make decisions from a centered, strategic mindset rather than reacting to the urgency of daily pressures. Environmental design isn't just about your physical space. It's about every aspect of your environment, including the information you consume, the people you spend time with, and the systems you use to manage your daily life. The 1% are ruthless about protecting their mental environment from negative influences and intentional about surrounding themselves with inputs that support their growth. Here's your environmental design challenge. Audit every aspect of your daily environment and ask, does this support the person I'm becoming, or does it support the person I used to be? Your phone setup, your morning routine, your workspace, your social media feeds, even the route you take to work, everything either supports your growth or supports your stagnation. There's no neutral ground. This leads us to our third discipline hack, one that I learned from studying the daily practices of history's most successful individuals: the power of strategic subtraction. Most people approach discipline by adding more activities, more goals, more complexity to their lives. The 1% understand that discipline is often about what you choose not to do rather than what you choose to do. Warren Buffett, one of the most successful investors in history, teaches a simple but profound exercise he calls the 25-5 rule. Write down your top 25 goals or priorities. Circle the top 5. Now here's the crucial part. Avoid the remaining 20 goals at all costs. These aren't your lower priorities. According to Buffett, these are your avoid at all costs list, because they're good enough to distract you from your truly important goals, but not important enough to deserve your focused attention. Leonardo da Vinci understood this principle intuitively. Despite being remembered as a Renaissance genius who excelled in multiple fields, da Vinci was actually incredibly selective about his projects. His notebooks reveal that for every project he completed, he abandoned dozens of others. Da Vinci didn't succeed because he was interested in everything. He succeeded because he was strategic about which interests deserved his sustained attention. He would often write in his journals, "Obstacles cannot crush me. Every obstacle yields to stern resolve. He who is fixed to a star does not change his mind." The daily discipline of strategic subtraction means regularly reviewing your commitments, relationships, and activities through the lens of your highest priorities. This isn't about being ruthless with people. It's about being intentional with your energy. Every yes to something unimportant is a no to something essential. Implement strategic subtraction by conducting a weekly energy audit. List everything you spent time on during the past week. Rate each activity on a scale of 1 to 10 based on how much it contributed to your most important goals. Anything below a 7 should be eliminated, delegated, or dramatically reduced. This isn't just time management. This is energy management. And energy management is the foundation of sustainable discipline. But even with perfect identity work, environmental design, and strategic subtraction, discipline fails without what I call the compound mindset. This is perhaps the most crucial discipline hack of the 1%, and it's where most people struggle. The compound mindset is the ability to make decisions based on long-term consequences rather than immediate gratification, and it requires training your brain to value future results more than present comfort. The story of Andrew Carnegie perfectly illustrates the compound mindset in action. Carnegie arrived in America as a poor Scottish immigrant with virtually nothing. His first job was working in a cotton factory for $1.20 per week. Most people in his situation would have focused on immediate survival, taking any job that paid more money right away. But Carnegie had developed what we now recognize as a compound mindset. Instead of chasing immediate income increases, he systematically positioned himself to learn skills that would compound over time. When Carnegie was offered a job as a telegraph operator for less money than his factory job, he took it because he understood that learning telegraph technology would give him access to information and networks that would compound his opportunities. When he was later offered a job with the Pennsylvania Railroad for only slightly more money, he took it because he understood that the railroad industry was positioned for explosive growth. Each decision Carnegie made prioritized learning and positioning over immediate financial gain. But here's the most important part of Carnegie's story. He didn't just think with a compound mindset. He trained himself to feel comfortable with delayed gratification. Carnegie would regularly practice what he called voluntary discomfort. He would deliberately choose less comfortable options when the choice didn't matter, like taking cold baths, walking instead of riding, or eating simple meals when he could afford better. This wasn't masochism. This was compound mindset training. By regularly choosing delayed gratification in small, low-stakes situations, Carnegie built his capacity to choose delayed gratification in high-stakes situations. The neuroscience behind this practice is fascinating. The prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain responsible for long-term thinking and impulse control, gets stronger with exercise, just like a muscle. Every time you choose the harder right over the easier wrong, You're literally building the brain structures that make future discipline easier. This is why the 1% are obsessed with small, daily practices that seem insignificant to outside observers. They understand that discipline is a transferable skill that compounds across all areas of life. Here's your compound mindset training protocol. Identify one small area of your life where you can practice delayed gratification daily. Maybe it's waiting 60 seconds before checking your phone when you get an impulse. Maybe it's choosing to take the stairs instead of the elevator. Maybe it's reading for 15 minutes instead of watching television. The specific activity matters less than the consistency of choosing the slightly harder option. This daily practice literally rewires your brain to default toward long-term thinking. Now let's explore what might be the most powerful discipline hack of all. The vision action loop. The 1% don't just have goals. They have compelling visions that pull them forward even when discipline feels difficult. But they don't stop at vision. They connect that vision to daily actions through what psychologists call implementation intentions. Nikola Tesla provides a perfect example of the vision-action loop in practice. Tesla didn't just dream about revolutionizing electricity. He spent hours daily visualizing his inventions in precise detail before ever building them. Tesla would literally see his machines running in his mind, make adjustments to the mental models, and perfect them completely before touching any physical materials. But Tesla's visualization wasn't passive daydreaming. It was connected to specific daily actions. Every morning, Tesla would spend exactly 2 hours walking and visualizing, then immediately transition to detailed sketching and calculation. Tesla understood that vision without action is hallucination, but action without vision is chaos. The vision-action loop creates what psychologists call goal gradient effect. The closer you feel to your goal, the more motivated you become to continue. By connecting daily actions to a compelling long-term vision, Tesla maintained extraordinary discipline even when working on projects that took years to complete. Here's how to implement the vision-action loop. Create what I call a vision script. This is a detailed, present-tense description of your ideal life that you read or visualize daily. But here's the crucial part. Immediately after engaging with your vision script, identify the 3 most important actions you can take today that move you toward that vision. This creates a neurological connection between your long-term inspiration and your short-term discipline. The vision script should be specific enough to create emotional resonance but flexible enough to evolve as you grow. Instead of, "I want to be wealthy," write something like, "I wake up every morning in a beautiful home that represents the value I've created in the world. I spend my days working on projects that energize me and serve others. I have the financial freedom to be generous with my time and resources. I feel deeply fulfilled because my work aligns with my values and contributes to something larger than myself." But the vision-action loop only works if it's supported by what I call faith-based discipline. This isn't religious faith, though it can include that. This is the discipline of acting on your vision, even when you can't see how it's going to work out. Most people only take action when they can see the complete path to their goal. The 1% understand that the path reveals itself through action, not contemplation. Abraham Lincoln exemplified faith-based discipline throughout his life. When Lincoln decided to pursue law, he had no formal education, no connections in the legal world, and no clear path to success. But he developed what his contemporaries described as an unshakable faith in the power of persistent effort. Lincoln would walk 20 miles to attend court sessions just to observe, take detailed notes on legal arguments, and practice his own arguments in front of anyone who would listen. Lincoln's faith wasn't passive hope. It was active certainty that consistent effort applied toward a worthy goal would eventually produce results. Even when he lost election after election, Lincoln maintained his daily disciplines of reading, writing, and practicing public speaking. He understood that faith-based discipline means continuing to do the work, especially when you can't see the results yet. This brings us to a crucial point that separates temporary discipline from permanent transformation. The understanding that discipline isn't about forcing yourself to do things you don't want to do. That's willpower, and willpower is finite. True discipline is about aligning your daily actions with your deepest values so completely that not taking action feels more uncomfortable than taking action. Let me share this with you, because if you're finding value in these principles and you want to continue growing, Make sure to subscribe to this channel and hit the notification bell. We dive deep into these life-changing concepts regularly, and I don't want you to miss any of the strategies that could transform your life. Your future self will thank you for the decision to prioritize your growth starting right now. The transformation from willpower to true discipline happens through what I call values integration. Most people know what they value intellectually, but they haven't done the deeper work of integrating those values into their daily identity and actions. The 1% spend time regularly clarifying their values and then designing their lives around those values rather than around external expectations or immediate pleasures. Benjamin Franklin provides the perfect model for values integration. At age 20, Franklin identified 13 virtues that he believed were essential for personal development: temperance, silence, order, resolution, frugality, industry, sincerity, justice, moderation, cleanliness, tranquility, chastity, and humility. But Franklin didn't stop at identifying these values. He created a systematic daily practice for developing them. Franklin designed what he called his virtue chart, where he would focus on one virtue per week, making a mark every time he failed to live up to that virtue. He would cycle through all 13 virtues 4 times per year, constantly refining his character through conscious daily practice. But here's what made Franklin's approach so effective. He connected each virtue to specific daily behaviors and measured his progress objectively. For example, when focusing on order, Franklin didn't just think about being more organized. He specifically committed to let all your things have their places, let each part of your business have its time. He created detailed daily schedules and physical organization systems that supported this virtue. When focusing on industry, he committed to lose no time, be always employed in something useful, cut off all unnecessary actions. Franklin understood that values without systems are just good intentions. Values with systems become character, and character drives behavior more powerfully than willpower ever could. This is why Franklin became one of the most accomplished individuals in American history. Inventor, writer, diplomat, philosopher, scientist, and one of the founding fathers of a nation. Your values integration practice starts with identifying your core values and then asking, what would my daily life look like if I designed it around these values instead of around convenience or social expectations? Then create specific systems and measurements that support living those values daily. This leads us to one of the most misunderstood aspects of discipline: the role of rest and recovery. Most people think discipline means pushing harder, doing more, grinding through exhaustion. The 1% understand that strategic rest is not the opposite of discipline. It's a component of sustainable discipline. Without proper rest and recovery, discipline becomes unsustainable and ultimately counterproductive. Winston Churchill, who led Britain through its darkest hour during World War II, understood this principle deeply. Despite the enormous pressures of wartime leadership, Churchill maintained strict boundaries around his rest and recovery. He took a daily nap from 4:30 to 6:30 p.m. No matter what crisis was occurring, he spent time painting, a hobby that completely absorbed his attention and provided mental restoration. He maintained regular social dinners, even during the most challenging periods of the war. Churchill's contemporaries often criticized these practices as frivolous during wartime, but Churchill understood that his ability to make clear decisions under pressure depended on his mental and physical restoration. He famously said, "I don't need to iron my own shirts, and I don't need to deprive myself of restoration if I want to serve at my highest level." The neuroscience supports Churchill's instincts. The brain's prefrontal cortex, which handles complex decision-making and impulse control, becomes depleted with overuse. Without adequate rest, the brain defaults to automatic patterns and emotional reactions rather than conscious choice. This is why tired people make poor decisions, and why sustainable discipline requires strategic recovery. Design your recovery as intentionally as you design your action. Schedule specific times for activities that restore your mental energy: meditation, exercise, time in nature, creative hobbies, or social connection. Treat these appointments as non-negotiable components of your discipline system, not luxuries you earn after completing your real work. Now let's explore what might be the most advanced discipline hack of the 1%: emotional mastery through strategic challenge. Most people avoid discomfort and challenge, but the 1% strategically seek out challenges that expand their capacity and build their confidence. They understand that emotional resilience isn't built through positive thinking alone. It's built through successfully navigating increasingly difficult situations. Genghis Khan, who built the largest contiguous empire in human history, understood this principle at a level that few humans ever reach. Khan didn't become a great leader through avoiding hardship. He became great by systematically taking on challenges that seemed impossible to others. But Khan's approach to challenge wasn't reckless. It was strategic. He would identify the specific skills and capacities he needed to develop, then create or seek out situations that would force him to develop those capacities. For example, when Khan realized that his army needed to become more adaptable and resilient, he would deliberately lead them through the most challenging terrain and weather conditions during training. When he realized that he needed to become a better strategic thinker, he would spend months studying the tactics of defeated enemies, learning from their mistakes, and integrating their successful strategies into his own approach. Khan understood that comfort is the enemy of growth, but he also understood that growth requires strategic discomfort, not random suffering. Every challenge Khan embraced was designed to build specific capacities that served his larger vision. This is the difference between the productive challenge-seeking of the 1% and the destructive risk-taking of people who are running away from their problems rather than running toward their goals. Here's your strategic challenge protocol. Identify one area where you need to grow to achieve your most important goals. Then design a progressive series of challenges that will build your capacity in that area. If you need to become a better communicator, start by speaking up in small meetings, then volunteer to give presentations, then seek opportunities to speak to larger groups. If you need to become more financially disciplined, start by tracking every expense for a week, then create and stick to a budget for a month, then invest a small amount consistently for 3 months. The key is progression and specificity. Random challenges build random capacities. Strategic challenges build specific strengths that compound over time. And here's the crucial insight. Every time you successfully navigate a challenge that you previously would have avoided, you build what psychologists call self-efficacy, the belief that you can handle whatever life brings you. Self-efficacy is the foundation of unshakable confidence, and unshakable confidence makes discipline feel natural rather than forced. This brings us to one of the most practical discipline hacks of the 1%. Energy management over time management. Most people focus on managing their time more efficiently, but the 1% focus on managing their energy more strategically. They understand that 2 hours of focused, high-energy work produces better results than 8 hours of distracted, low-energy effort. Thomas Edison provides a perfect example of strategic energy management. Edison realized that his mental energy followed predictable patterns throughout the day. His creative energy was highest in the early morning hours. His analytical energy peaked in mid-morning, and his administrative energy was sufficient for late afternoon tasks. Instead of fighting these natural rhythms, Edison designed his daily schedule around them. Edison would tackle his most creative and challenging problems during his peak energy hours and save routine tasks for times when his energy was naturally lower. He also discovered that short periods of complete rest actually increased his overall productive capacity. Edison would regularly take what he called thinking naps, brief periods of relaxation, while holding steel balls in his hands. When the balls dropped as he began to fall asleep, the sound would wake him up. This practice, which seems unusual, actually allowed Edison to access the hypnagogic state between waking and sleeping, where many breakthrough insights occur. Modern neuroscience has validated Edison's intuitive approach. Research shows that the brain has natural ultradian rhythms, 2I, cycles of high and low energy that occur approximately every 90 to 120 minutes throughout the day. Working with these natural rhythms rather than against them dramatically increases both productivity and sustainability. Map your personal energy patterns for 1 week. Notice when your mental energy is highest, when it begins to decline, and what activities or practices restore it most effectively. Then redesign your daily schedule to align your most important work with your highest energy periods and your routine tasks with your lower energy periods. But energy management isn't just about timing, it's also about energy sources. The 1% are strategic about what feeds their energy and what drains it. This includes not just activities, but information consumption, social interactions, and even thought patterns. Napoleon Bonaparte understood this principle at the level of military strategy. Napoleon would carefully study the energy and morale patterns of both his own troops and enemy forces. He would time attacks when his troops were most energized and enemy forces were most depleted. But Napoleon applied this same strategic thinking to his personal energy management. He would surround himself with people who increased his mental clarity and distance himself from people who created drama or confusion. He structured his daily routine to maximize his decision-making capacity during the most critical hours of each day. Audit your energy sources and energy drains with the same strategic attention that Napoleon applied to military campaigns. Identify the people, activities, information sources, and thought patterns that increase your energy versus those that deplete it. Then systematically increase your exposure to energy sources and decrease your exposure to energy drains. This leads us to what I consider the most transformative discipline hack of all: the identity, action, result feedback loop. Most people focus on results and get frustrated when results don't come quickly. The 1% focus on identity and actions, knowing that results are inevitable when identity and actions are aligned. Here's how the loop works. Your identity determines your actions. Your actions create your results, and your results reinforce your identity. Most people try to change their results by changing their actions, but they skip the identity work, so the changes don't last. The 1% start with identity, which makes the right actions feel natural, which creates better results, which reinforces the new identity, creating an upward spiral of growth. John D. Rockefeller provides the perfect example of this feedback loop in action. Before Rockefeller became the wealthiest person in America, he developed the identity of someone who creates value through systematic thinking and long-term planning. This identity led him to actions like studying successful business models, saving a portion of every dollar he earned, and making decisions based on long-term consequences rather than short-term profits. These actions created results, successful investments, growing wealth, and expanding influence. These results reinforced his identity as someone who creates value through systematic thinking, which led to even more sophisticated actions, which created even better results. This positive feedback loop continued throughout Rockefeller's life, taking him from a modest background to unprecedented wealth and influence. But here's the crucial insight. Rockefeller didn't wait until he was wealthy to adopt a wealthy identity. He developed the thinking patterns, decision-making processes, and daily habits of a wealthy person while he was still earning modest wages. He understood that you don't become wealthy and then start thinking like a wealthy person. You start thinking like a wealthy person and then become wealthy. Your identity action result feedback loop practice starts with clearly defining the identity of the person who would naturally achieve your goals. What would that person think about daily? How would they make decisions? What would their daily routine look like? What would they prioritize? How would they handle setbacks and challenges? Then start embodying that identity immediately, regardless of your current circumstances. Act as if you already are the person you want to become, not because you're pretending or being fake, but because you're choosing to develop that identity starting now rather than waiting until some future moment when you feel worthy of it. This approach might seem simple, but it's psychologically profound. When you consistently act from your desired identity, you begin to see evidence that supports that identity, which makes the identity feel more real, which makes the actions feel more natural, which creates better results, which provides more evidence, and the cycle continues. Now let's talk about one of the most misunderstood aspects of discipline, the role of emotions. Most people think discipline means suppressing emotions or pushing through regardless of how they feel. The 1% understand that emotions are information and energy, and learning to work with emotions rather than against them is crucial for sustainable discipline. Marcus Aurelius developed what might be the most sophisticated approach to emotional mastery in recorded history. Aurelius understood that emotions themselves aren't the problem. It's our relationship to emotions that determines whether they help or hinder our discipline. In his Meditations, Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." But Aurelius didn't just intellectualize this principle. He developed specific daily practices for emotional mastery. Every morning, Aurelius would spend time preparing mentally for the emotional challenges of the day. He would visualize potential difficulties and mentally rehearse his desired responses. Every evening, he would review the day's emotional reactions and identify lessons for future growth. Aurelius understood that emotional mastery isn't about not feeling emotions. It's about choosing your response to emotions consciously rather than reacting automatically. This is a skill that gets stronger with practice, just like physical strength gets stronger with exercise. Develop your emotional mastery through what I call response choice training. Throughout the day, when you notice strong emotions arising, pause and ask yourself, what information is this emotion giving me, and how do I choose to respond based on my values and goals, rather than based on the immediate emotional impulse? This isn't about suppressing the emotion, it's about creating space between the emotion and your response, so you can choose consciously. This practice is particularly important for maintaining discipline during difficult periods. Everyone experiences setbacks, failures, and discouraging moments. The difference between people who maintain their discipline through difficulties and people who give up isn't that the successful people don't feel discouragement. It's that they've trained themselves to interpret setbacks as information and temporary challenges rather than as evidence that they should quit. Theodore Roosevelt, who overcame significant physical challenges to become one of America's most dynamic presidents, developed what he called the strenuous life philosophy. Roosevelt understood that strength isn't built by avoiding difficulties. It's built by engaging with difficulties from a position of choice rather than victimhood. Roosevelt would regularly choose physical and mental challenges that seemed unreasonable to others, leading expeditions through dangerous territory, giving speeches despite severe asthma, and taking on political fights that others avoided. But Roosevelt's approach to challenge wasn't masochistic, it was strategic. He understood that every time he chose to engage with difficulty from a place of purpose, rather than running away from it, he built his capacity to handle even greater challenges. Roosevelt's daily discipline included what he called vigor training, regularly choosing the more demanding option when the choice didn't matter significantly. Taking cold baths instead of warm ones, walking uphill routes instead of flat ones, reading challenging books instead of easy entertainment. These small choices built Roosevelt's capacity to make difficult choices when the stakes were high. Your response choice training includes not just emotional responses, but also your relationship to challenge and discomfort. Start looking for opportunities to choose the slightly more challenging option throughout your day. This builds what researchers call distress tolerance, your capacity to remain focused and effective even when circumstances are uncomfortable. This brings us to one of the most powerful but least discussed discipline hacks: strategic visualization paired with physical action. Most people think of visualization as a mental exercise separate from physical action, but the 1% combine detailed mental rehearsal with immediate physical steps, creating what neuroscientists call embodied cognition. Nikola Tesla provides the most dramatic example of this principle in action. Tesla would spend hours visualizing his inventions in complete detail, seeing every component, hearing every sound, feeling every texture. But Tesla's visualization wasn't passive daydreaming. It was active mental engineering. Tesla would run his imaginary machines, adjust their performance, and solve problems completely in his mind before ever building physical prototypes. But here's the crucial part. Tesla would immediately follow his visualization sessions with detailed sketching and mathematical calculations. He understood that visualization without action remains in the realm of fantasy, but action without clear visualization often leads to wasted effort. The combination of detailed mental rehearsal followed by immediate physical steps created what Tesla called practical idealism. Tesla's approach is supported by modern neuroscience. When you visualize an action in detail, your brain activates many of the same neural pathways that would be activated by actually performing the action. This mental rehearsal literally prepares your nervous system for successful execution. But the visualization is only effective if it's followed by actual practice, which reinforces the neural pathways and turns mental preparation into physical capability. Here's your strategic visualization protocol. Every morning, spend 10 minutes visualizing your ideal day in complete sensory detail. See yourself performing your most important tasks with focus and energy. Feel the satisfaction of completing meaningful work. Hear the sounds of a productive environment. Make the visualization as specific and realistic as possible. But here's the crucial part. Immediately after your visualization, identify the first 3 actions you need to take to make that ideal day reality, and take the first action within 60 minutes. This creates a neurological bridge between your mental preparation and your physical execution, making your discipline feel more natural and automatic. The combination of visualization and immediate action is particularly powerful for overcoming procrastination and resistance. When you visualize yourself successfully completing a task, and then take immediate action toward that task, you create momentum that carries you through the initial resistance that stops most people. Now let's explore what might be the most advanced discipline concept of all: systems thinking applied to personal development. Most people approach discipline through what psychologists call event thinking, focusing on individual actions, goals, and outcomes. The 1% approach discipline through systems thinking, focusing on the underlying patterns, relationships, and structures that create consistent results over time. Andrew Carnegie provides the perfect example of systems thinking applied to personal development. Carnegie didn't just work hard. He thought systematically about how to create systems that would generate compound results over time. Carnegie understood that individual efforts, no matter how intense, have limited impact compared to systems that work continuously without requiring constant attention. For example, instead of just trying to learn more about business, Carnegie created systems for continuous learning. He established relationships with mentors who would teach him different aspects of business. He invested in companies where he could observe successful operations firsthand. And he created formal processes for analyzing and documenting successful strategies he encountered. Instead of just trying to build wealth through individual transactions, Carnegie created systems for compound wealth building. He focused on industries with long-term growth potential. He reinvested profits systematically rather than spending them. And he built networks of relationships that created ongoing opportunities rather than just immediate transactions. Carnegie understood that systems thinking isn't just more effective than event thinking, it's also more sustainable. Individual efforts require constant motivation and energy, but well-designed systems maintain themselves through built-in feedback loops and incentive structures. Your systems thinking approach to discipline starts with identifying the underlying patterns in your current results. Instead of asking, "How can I work harder?" ask, "What systems would make the right actions automatic?" Instead of, "How can I be more disciplined?" ask, "What environmental and structural changes would make discipline unnecessary because the right choices become the easy choices?" For example, if you want to exercise consistently, event thinking focuses on motivation and willpower. Systems thinking focuses on reducing friction, laying out workout clothes the night before, scheduling workouts at times when your energy is naturally high, choosing forms of exercise you actually enjoy, and creating accountability structures that make skipping workouts socially uncomfortable. If you want to build wealth, event thinking focuses on individual financial decisions. Systems thinking focuses on automatic systems, setting up automatic transfers to investment accounts, choosing investment strategies that don't require daily decisions, creating multiple income streams that compound over time, and building financial education into your regular routine so that your money decisions improve automatically as your knowledge grows. The most powerful systems are what I call identity reinforcement systems, structures that continuously strengthen your desired identity through small, consistent experiences of success. Every time your system works automatically, you gain evidence that you're the type of person who has effective systems, which makes you more likely to create and maintain effective systems, which creates better results, which reinforces your identity as someone who gets results through intelligent design rather than just hard work. This brings us to a crucial principle that separates sustainable discipline from temporary motivation: the principle of minimum effective dose. Most people approach discipline with an all-or-nothing mentality. They try to change everything at once, burn out quickly, and then feel guilty about their lack of willpower. The 1% understand that sustainable change happens through consistently applying the minimum amount of effort that produces meaningful progress. This principle comes from pharmacology. where the minimum effective dose is the smallest amount of a medication that produces the desired therapeutic effect. Taking more than the minimum effective dose doesn't produce better results. It just increases the risk of negative side effects. The same principle applies to discipline and habit formation. James Clear's research on atomic habits reveals that the most sustainable changes are often the smallest ones. Someone who commits to doing one push-up every day is more likely to develop a consistent exercise habit than someone who commits to working out for an hour daily. The person doing one push-up builds the identity of someone who exercises daily, and once that identity is established, increasing the intensity becomes natural rather than forced. But here's the sophisticated part. The 1% don't stay at minimum effective dose forever. They use minimum effective dose to establish consistency, then gradually increase intensity as the behavior becomes automatic. This approach builds confidence and momentum rather than creating resistance and burnout. Your minimum effective dose practice starts with identifying one keystone habit, a behavior that naturally leads to other positive behaviors. Maybe it's making your bed every morning, which creates a sense of accomplishment that carries into other areas of your day. Maybe it's writing 3 sentences in a journal every morning, which develops self-awareness that improves all your other decisions. Maybe it's reading for 10 minutes before bed, which gradually builds your knowledge and reduces screen time simultaneously. Choose one behavior that you can commit to doing every single day, regardless of circumstances. Make it so small that you'd feel foolish not doing it. Then do it consistently for 30 days while tracking your progress visually. This builds what researchers call implementation strength, the neurological pathways that make following through on commitments feel automatic. Once the behavior feels completely automatic, you can gradually increase the intensity or add complementary behaviors. But the foundation is consistency at the minimum effective dose, not intensity that can't be maintained. This approach requires what I call strategic patience, the discipline of prioritizing long-term compound results over short-term dramatic changes. Most people want transformation to happen quickly, but the 1% understand that quick changes rarely last, while gradual changes can transform your entire life. Alexander the Great exemplified strategic patience, despite being known for bold, decisive action. Before Alexander conquered most of the known world, he spent years developing his military and leadership skills under his father Philip of Macedonia. Alexander didn't rush into battles he wasn't prepared for. He systematically built his capabilities while waiting for the right opportunities. But Alexander's patience wasn't passive waiting, it was active preparation. Every day, Alexander trained physically, studied military strategy, learned about the cultures he would eventually encounter, and developed relationships with the soldiers who would follow him into battle. When opportunities for expansion finally came, Alexander was ready to act decisively because he had prepared systematically. Alexander understood that preparation and patience aren't the opposite of bold action. They're what make bold action possible. This is why Alexander could make decisions that seemed impossibly risky to others, but were actually calculated risks based on thorough preparation. Your strategic patience practice involves what I call daily investment thinking. Instead of asking, "What results can I get today?" ask, "What can I do today that will compound into extraordinary results over time?" Instead of, "How can I feel successful right now?" ask, "What small actions today will make me proud when I look back a year from now?" This shift in thinking transforms discipline from a burden into an investment. Every disciplined choice becomes a deposit in your future self's account. Every time you choose long-term benefit over short-term comfort, you're literally investing in the person you're becoming. Now, if you're recognizing the power of these principles and you want to make sure you don't miss any of the advanced strategies we share, this is the perfect time to hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell. These concepts have the power to completely transform your relationship with discipline and success, and I want to make sure you have access to everything that can accelerate your growth. This investment mindset is crucial for developing what I call compound confidence. Confidence that builds on itself through accumulated evidence of your ability to keep commitments to yourself. Most people try to build confidence through positive thinking or affirmations, but the 1% build confidence through what psychologists call mastery experiences. Small, consistent wins that prove to themselves that they can do what they say they're going to do. Every time you follow through on a commitment to yourself, especially when it's difficult or inconvenient, you build evidence that you're the type of person who keeps commitments. This evidence accumulates over time, creating unshakable confidence that's based on reality rather than just positive thinking. Benjamin Franklin understood this principle intuitively. Franklin's 13 virtue system wasn't just about moral development, it was about building compound confidence through small, daily wins. Every day that Franklin successfully practiced one of his chosen virtues, he gained evidence that he could change his behavior through conscious choice, rather than being controlled by circumstances or impulses. This evidence accumulated over time, giving Franklin the confidence to take on increasingly ambitious projects, starting businesses, conducting scientific experiments, engaging in diplomacy, and helping to found a nation. Franklin's confidence wasn't based on natural talent or lucky circumstances. It was based on decades of evidence that he could achieve what he set his mind to through systematic effort. Your compound confidence building starts with making small, specific commitments to yourself and tracking your success rate. Start with commitments so small that failing would be embarrassing. Drinking a glass of water first thing in the morning, writing one sentence in a journal, or doing 5 push-ups before bed. The specific action matters less than the experience of consistently doing what you say you're going to do. As your success rate increases, gradually make your commitments more significant. The key is maintaining a high success rate rather than making the commitments as challenging as possible. You're building confidence through consistency, not through intensity. This leads us to one of the most sophisticated discipline concepts, the integration of opposites. Most people think in either-or terms, either discipline or enjoyment, either work or rest, either individual success or service to others. The 1% understand that the highest levels of achievement come from integrating apparent opposites rather than choosing between them. Leonardo da Vinci provides the perfect example of integrating opposites. Da Vinci was simultaneously an artist and a scientist, a dreamer and a pragmatist, intensely focused and broadly curious. Instead of seeing these qualities as contradictory, Da Vinci understood that each quality enhanced the others. His artistic sensitivity made him a better observer of natural phenomena, which made him a better scientist. His scientific knowledge gave him technical skills that made his art more sophisticated. His ability to dream big gave him vision, while his pragmatic skills gave him the ability to turn dreams into reality. Da Vinci's daily routine reflected this integration of opposites. He would spend mornings doing detailed observational studies that required intense focus, then spend afternoons on creative projects that allowed for free-flowing imagination. He would alternate between periods of intense work and periods of rest and reflection. He understood that peak performance requires both discipline and recovery, both structure and flexibility, both individual excellence and collaborative learning. The integration of opposites is particularly important for sustainable discipline. Most people approach discipline with a warrior mentality, conquering their weaknesses through force and willpower. But this approach creates internal resistance and eventual burnout. The 1% approach discipline with what I call an architect mentality, designing their lives so that disciplined choices feel natural and enjoyable rather than forced. This means finding ways to make healthy behaviors intrinsically rewarding rather than just instrumentally useful. Instead of exercising because you should, find forms of movement that you genuinely enjoy. Instead of eating healthy foods because they're good for you, learn to prepare healthy foods in ways that taste amazing. Instead of working on important projects because you have to, find ways to connect your most important work to your deepest sources of meaning and satisfaction. Your integration of opposites practice starts with identifying areas where you've been thinking in either-or terms and exploring both and possibilities. How can you be both disciplined and spontaneous? Both focused on your goals and present in the moment? Both committed to your individual success and generous in serving others? Both structured in your approach and flexible in your methods? This integration thinking is particularly powerful for overcoming resistance and procrastination. Most procrastination comes from internal conflict between different parts of yourself. Part of you wants to achieve your goals, but another part of you wants to avoid discomfort or preserve your current identity. Instead of trying to force the resistant part to comply, explore ways to honor both parts. For example, if part of you wants to build a business, but another part of you values security, find ways to build your business gradually while maintaining financial security. If part of you wants to be disciplined, but another part of you values fun and spontaneity, create disciplined routines that include space for spontaneity and enjoyment. This brings us to what I consider the ultimate discipline hack: purpose-driven discipline. When your daily disciplines are connected to a purpose that's larger than your immediate self-interest, discipline stops feeling like self-denial and starts feeling like self-expression. You're not forcing yourself to do things you don't want to do. You're choosing to do things that express who you are and what you stand for. Mahatma Gandhi provides the most powerful example of purpose-driven discipline in modern history. Gandhi's daily disciplines were legendary: waking before dawn for prayer and meditation, spinning cloth by hand for a specific amount of time each day, fasting regularly, walking long distances instead of riding, and maintaining strict schedules for work and rest. But Gandhi's disciplines weren't about personal achievement. They were expressions of his commitment to justice, non-violence, and service to others. Gandhi understood that when discipline is connected to purpose, it becomes sustainable in ways that willpower-based discipline never can be. Gandhi could maintain extraordinary disciplines for decades because they weren't burdens he imposed on himself. They were natural expressions of his deepest values and commitments. Gandhi's approach reveals a profound psychological truth. Humans are naturally disciplined when they're aligned with their purpose. The apparent laziness or lack of discipline that many people experience isn't actually laziness. It's the natural result of trying to impose external disciplines without connecting them to internal purpose. When you connect your daily disciplines to your deepest sense of purpose and meaning, several things happen automatically. First, discipline stops requiring willpower because you want to do the things that express your purpose. Second, setbacks become learning opportunities rather than reasons to quit because your commitment is to the purpose, not to perfect performance. Third, discipline becomes sustainable over long periods because it's intrinsically rewarding rather than just instrumentally useful. Your purpose-driven discipline practice starts with what I call the why stack. For each of your current disciplines or desired disciplines, ask, why is this important to me? Then ask, why is that important to me? Keep asking why until you reach something that feels deeply meaningful rather than just practically useful. For example, if you want to exercise regularly, your first why might be to be healthy. Your second why might be so I have energy for my family and work. Your third why might be because I want to serve others at my highest capacity. Your fourth why might be because I believe I have unique contributions to make in the world. Keep going until you reach a why that connects to your deepest sense of purpose and meaning. Once you've identified your deepest why, design your disciplines as expressions of that purpose rather than just steps toward external goals. Instead of I exercise to lose weight, try I exercise as an expression of my commitment to showing up fully for the people and causes I care about. Instead of I read to get ahead in my career, try I read as an expression of my commitment to continuous growth and learning. This shift from instrumental discipline to expressive discipline is psychologically profound. Instrumental discipline feels like work because you're doing it to get something else. Expressive discipline feels like play because you're doing it to express who you are. Now let's explore one of the most practical but overlooked aspects of sustainable discipline: environmental psychology applied to personal development. Your physical environment is constantly influencing your behavior, usually below the level of conscious awareness. The 1% understand that changing your environment is often more effective than trying to change your willpower. John D. Rockefeller was obsessive about environmental design, but not in the way most people imagine. Rockefeller didn't surround himself with luxury or status symbols. He designed his environment to support clear thinking and long-term decision-making. Rockefeller's office was deliberately simple and uncluttered because he understood that visual complexity creates mental complexity. Rockefeller would arrive at his office early every morning and spend the first hour organizing his physical space and reviewing his priorities before engaging with other people or urgent demands. He understood that the external order supported internal clarity, and internal clarity was essential for the kind of strategic thinking that built lasting wealth. But Rockefeller's environmental design went beyond his office. He was strategic about every aspect of his environment. The books he kept visible, the people he spent time with, the neighborhoods he lived in, even the routes he took between destinations. Rockefeller understood that every environmental factor either supported his goals or distracted from them, and he designed his life accordingly. Modern environmental psychology confirms Rockefeller's intuitions. Research shows that cluttered environments increase cortisol levels and reduce cognitive performance. Natural lighting improves mood and energy levels. The presence of books increases the likelihood that people will read. The visibility of healthy foods increases the likelihood that people will eat them. Even subtle environmental factors like colors, scents, and sounds can significantly influence behavior and decision-making. Your environmental design practice starts with what I call an environmental audit. Walk through your living and working spaces and ask, does every element of this environment support the person I'm becoming, or does it support the person I used to be? Look at everything: the books on your shelves, the apps on your phone, the food in your kitchen, the clothes in your closet, the artwork on your walls, even the lighting and organization of your spaces. Then systematically modify your environment to make good choices easier and bad choices harder. If you want to read more, put books in visible, easily accessible places, and remove distracting entertainment options. If you want to eat healthier, fill your kitchen with healthy foods and remove processed options. If you want to exercise regularly, lay out workout clothes where you'll see them first thing in the morning. The goal isn't to create a perfect environment, but to create an environment that consistently nudges you toward your desired behaviors. Small environmental changes can have disproportionately large impacts on your daily choices and long-term results. This environmental thinking extends to your social environment as well. The people you spend time with regularly have an enormous influence on your thoughts, beliefs, and behaviors. Jim Rohn famously said, "You are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with," and research in social psychology strongly supports this observation. Andrew Carnegie understood this principle deeply. Carnegie was strategic about building relationships with people who were already successful in areas where he wanted to grow. Carnegie didn't just network for business purposes. He cultivated relationships with people whose thinking and habits he wanted to absorb. Carnegie understood that proximity to excellence naturally raises your own standards and capabilities. But Carnegie also understood that social environment isn't just about who you spend time with. It's about the quality of those interactions. Carnegie would regularly engage in what he called mastermind sessions with other successful individuals, where they would discuss challenges, share strategies, and hold each other accountable for their goals. These sessions created a social environment that supported high-level thinking and ambitious action. Your social environment design involves both addition and subtraction. Identify people in your current social circle who consistently support your growth and spend more intentional time with them. Also, identify relationships that consistently drain your energy or encourage behaviors that don't align with your goals, and compassionately but firmly create boundaries. More importantly, actively seek out relationships with people who are already living at the level you aspire to reach. This doesn't mean using people or being inauthentic. It means finding ways to provide value to people you can learn from, while absorbing their mindsets and approaches through proximity and interaction. This brings us to one of the most advanced concepts in sustainable discipline: the paradox of effortless effort. The highest levels of discipline eventually feel effortless because they become so integrated into your identity and systems that not doing them would require more effort than doing them. This isn't laziness or lack of standards. It's the natural result of building discipline so systematically that it becomes automatic. Nikola Tesla exemplified effortless effort in his later years. Tesla's daily routines of visualization, experimentation, and intellectual work were so deeply ingrained that they required no conscious decision-making. Tesla didn't wake up each morning and decide whether to engage in his creative work. Engaging in creative work was simply what Tesla did, like breathing or eating. But Tesla's effortless effort wasn't the result of natural talent or lack of challenge. Tesla achieved effortless effort by spending years consciously building the systems, habits, and identity that made his highest-level work feel natural and automatic. Tesla understood that the goal of discipline isn't to struggle forever. It's to build such strong systems and identity that your best behaviors become your default behaviors. This is the ultimate goal of all the discipline hacks we've explored. To build a life where your highest values are expressed through your automatic behaviors, where your daily actions align naturally with your deepest purposes, and where discipline feels like self-expression rather than self-denial. The path to effortless effort requires what I call systematic skill building, the deliberate practice of building discipline in progressively more challenging areas until discipline itself becomes a meta skill that transfers across all areas of life. Marcus Aurelius provides a perfect model for systematic skill building. Aurelius didn't just practice discipline in one area, he systematically developed discipline across multiple domains: physical discipline through exercise and simple living, intellectual discipline through daily study and reflection, emotional discipline through stoic practices and self-examination, social discipline through fair leadership and service to others, and spiritual discipline through alignment with what he saw as the natural order of the universe. Each area of discipline that Aurelius developed strengthened his overall capacity for discipline. Physical discipline built his ability to choose discomfort when necessary. Intellectual discipline built his ability to think clearly under pressure. Emotional discipline built his ability to respond rather than react. Social discipline built his ability to consider long-term consequences. Spiritual discipline built his ability to maintain perspective during difficult periods. Your systematic skill building involves identifying multiple areas where you can practice discipline and gradually expanding your capacity across all areas. Start with one area where discipline feels most natural to you. Build consistency there. Then gradually add disciplines in other areas. The key is building overall discipline capacity rather than just achieving specific goals. As your discipline capacity expands across multiple areas, you'll notice that discipline in any one area becomes easier because you've built the underlying neural pathways and identity that support disciplined choice-making in general. This leads us to the final and most important discipline hack: legacy-driven decision-making. The ultimate source of sustainable discipline isn't willpower, fear, or even personal ambition. It's the understanding that your daily choices are creating a legacy that extends far beyond your immediate circumstances and personal benefits. When you make decisions based on the legacy you want to leave, discipline becomes a form of service rather than a form of self-improvement. You're not just trying to achieve personal goals. You're trying to contribute something valuable that will outlast your individual life. This perspective transforms discipline from a selfish pursuit into a generous expression of your commitment to future generations and the larger human community. Abraham Lincoln exemplified legacy-driven decision-making throughout his presidency. Lincoln's daily disciplines of study, reflection, and careful decision-making weren't motivated primarily by personal ambition or even immediate political success. Lincoln was motivated by his vision of what America could become and his sense of responsibility to future generations. Lincoln would regularly ask himself, how will this decision affect the country my children and grandchildren will inherit? This long-term, legacy-focused perspective gave Lincoln the strength to maintain extraordinary discipline during the most challenging period in American history. Lincoln could endure personal attacks, political setbacks, and enormous stress because he understood that his daily choices were contributing to something much larger than his personal comfort or success. Lincoln's legacy-driven approach reveals a profound truth about human motivation. We are capable of much greater discipline and sacrifice when we're serving something larger than ourselves than when we're serving only our personal interests. This isn't because serving others is morally superior to serving yourself. It's because humans are naturally motivated by purpose and meaning. And purpose and meaning are usually found in connection to something beyond immediate self-interest. Your legacy-driven decision-making practice starts with regularly asking yourself, what legacy am I creating through my daily choices? And how will my current disciplines and behaviors affect the world I'm leaving for future generations? This isn't about perfectionism or grandiosity. It's about connecting your daily actions to your deepest sense of purpose and responsibility. When you make decisions from a legacy perspective, several things happen automatically. Short-term inconveniences become easier to accept because they're investments in long-term outcomes that matter. Personal setbacks become less devastating because your focus is on contribution rather than just personal success. Daily disciplines become expressions of your values rather than burdens you impose on yourself. Most importantly, Legacy-driven decision-making creates what researchers call intrinsic motivation. Motivation that comes from the inherent satisfaction of the activity itself rather than from external rewards. Intrinsic motivation is more sustainable, more satisfying, and more conducive to high performance than extrinsic motivation. As we approach the conclusion of our exploration, I want to share one final story that brings together all the discipline hacks we've discussed. This is the story of a man who transformed himself from a sickly, weak child into one of the most dynamic leaders in American history through the systematic application of discipline principles. Theodore Roosevelt was born with severe asthma, poor eyesight, and a frail constitution. Doctors told his parents that he would likely live a limited, sedentary life. But Roosevelt's father gave him advice that would shape his entire approach to discipline. "Theodore, you have the mind, but you have not the body. And without the help of the body, the mind cannot go as far as it should. You must make your body." Roosevelt took this advice literally and systematically. He didn't just decide to get stronger. He created a comprehensive system for building physical, mental, and moral strength. Roosevelt built a gymnasium in his family's home and exercised daily, gradually building his physical capacity. He read voraciously, often finishing multiple books per week, systematically building his intellectual capacity. He deliberately sought out challenging experiences that would build his character and confidence. But Roosevelt's approach embodied all the discipline hacks we've explored. He used identity-based change, seeing himself as someone who overcame obstacles through determined effort. He designed his environment to support his goals, surrounding himself with books, exercise equipment, and people who encouraged his growth. He practiced strategic challenge-seeking, deliberately choosing difficult experiences that would build his capabilities. He developed purpose-driven discipline, connecting his personal development to his desire to serve others and contribute to society. Most importantly, Roosevelt integrated all these practices into a coherent system that supported his long-term vision while remaining flexible enough to adapt to changing circumstances. Roosevelt didn't just build discipline in one area. He built a disciplined approach to life that served him through careers as a rancher, police commissioner, military leader, explorer, author, and president. Roosevelt's transformation reveals the ultimate truth about discipline. It's not about forcing yourself to do things you don't want to do. It's about systematically building the identity, systems, and capabilities that make your highest aspirations feel natural and achievable. Roosevelt didn't overcome his physical limitations through willpower alone. He overcame them by building systems and identity that made strength, building behaviors automatic and intrinsically rewarding. This is the essence of becoming part of the 1%, not just achieving extraordinary results, but building extraordinary systems and identity that make those results inevitable rather than accidental. The discipline hacks we've explored aren't just techniques for achieving goals. They're methods for becoming the type of person who naturally creates the results you desire. As we conclude, I want to emphasize that implementing these principles doesn't require perfection or immediate mastery. The 1% aren't perfect. They're simply committed to consistent improvement and systematic application of principles that compound over time. Your journey toward extraordinary discipline and results begins with choosing one principle from today's discussion and implementing it consistently for the next 30 days. Remember, every master was once a beginner, every expert was once a novice, and every successful person was once someone who decided to begin. The difference between where you are now and where you want to be isn't talent, luck, or circumstances. It's the systematic application of discipline principles that transform your daily actions into compound results over time. If these concepts have resonated with you and you're ready to continue this journey of transformation, make sure you subscribe to this channel and hit the notification bell. We consistently share advanced strategies for personal development, mindset mastery, and systematic success. Your commitment to continuous learning and growth is one of the most important investments you can make in your future. The principles we've explored today aren't just theoretical concepts. They're practical tools that have been tested by history's most successful individuals and validated by modern research in psychology and neuroscience. But principles without application remain merely interesting ideas. Your transformation begins the moment you decide to implement these concepts in your daily life. Start with identity design. Decide who you're becoming and begin making choices from that identity today. Implement environmental design. Modify your surroundings to support your desired behaviors. Practice strategic subtraction. Eliminate the good to make room for the great. Develop compound mindset. Make decisions based on long-term consequences rather than immediate gratification. Create vision-action loops. Connect inspiring visions to specific daily actions. Build systems thinking. Focus on creating structures that generate consistent results rather than relying on individual efforts. Most importantly, connect your disciplines to a purpose larger than immediate self-interest. When your daily practices become expressions of your deepest values and contributions to something beyond yourself, discipline transforms from burden to privilege, from self-denial to self-expression, from temporary motivation to permanent transformation. The 1% aren't superhuman. They're simply individuals who have decided to approach life systematically rather than accidentally, strategically rather than reactively, purposefully rather than carelessly. They understand that extraordinary results come from ordinary actions applied consistently over time, guided by clear vision and supported by intelligent systems. Your journey toward joining the 1% begins not with a dramatic gesture or overnight transformation, but with a simple decision to begin applying these principles starting today. Choose one concept that resonated most strongly with you. Create a simple system for implementing it consistently. Track your progress. Adjust your approach based on results. Celebrate small wins. Build momentum through consistency rather than intensity. Remember that every day you delay implementing these principles is another day that compounds in the wrong direction. The best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The second best time is today. Your future self is counting on the decisions you make right now. The person you're becoming is determined by the choices you make in this moment and every moment that follows. The transformation you seek isn't just possible, it's inevitable when you apply these principles consistently over time. You have everything you need to begin this journey right now. The only question is whether you'll choose to begin today or continue waiting for some future moment when conditions feel perfect. Perfect conditions never come. Perfect timing never arrives. Perfect readiness is a myth. But perfect moments for beginning are available in every present moment, including this one. Your extraordinary life is waiting for you to claim it through the systematic application of extraordinary discipline. The 1% are waiting to welcome you. Your highest potential is calling to you. Your greatest contributions are seeking expression through you. Begin today. Begin now. Begin with the next choice you make. Your journey toward extraordinary discipline and extraordinary results starts with your decision to become the type of person who lives these principles rather than just learning about them. If you're ready to take this journey seriously, subscribe to this channel right now and join our community of individuals who are committed to systematic growth and extraordinary results. Share your commitment in the comments below. Tell us which principle you're going to implement first. Create accountability for yourself by making your commitment public. Your transformation begins the moment you decide to begin. The principles are proven. The path is clear. The only variable is your decision to walk the path consistently, one disciplined choice at a time, one day at a time, until discipline becomes your default and extraordinary results become your natural expression. Welcome to the 1%. Your extraordinary life is waiting. Champions, your mind has been forged a little stronger today, but the real test isn't what you learned, it's what you do with it. Take action, dominate your day, and remember, we're not just building better thoughts, we're forging unstoppable lives. The forge doesn't stop, and neither do you. If this episode hit you where it counts, subscribe to Mental Forge Academy and join the Brotherhood of Champions who refuse to settle for ordinary. Go transform, strike while the mind is hot.